Welcome back to Tania's Enchanted Creations. Today we are going to see how we make the moon into a paint palette. Like and subscribe. So yes, we are back and we are using air dry clay once again because it is perfect for this project. So I always start with obviously conditioning the clay. I'm moulding it in my hands. It doesn't need that much conditioning. You can just roll it straight from the pack with air dry clay, but this one had been sitting there in the box. So I thought I would give it a little bit of moisture with some water and rub that in and squish it all together until it came nice and soft and conditioned once again to be rolled out. And now, a beautiful fresh pack clay. I love a beautiful fresh pack of clay. But yeah, so I'll just squish them together now and then we will get on with the rolling. So after rolling this clay out to about 2 centimeters, I probably needed more because it probably was a little bit thin. But after doing that, I did literally go around with the box that I usually hold the clay in, the airtight container, and I cut this out with a blade, and this is going to be the full moon, and then you'll see me cut out a crescent moon, and this is a perfect way to do it. You use the same container and then you'll just measure it or put it up against the circle and see where you want your crescent moon, and that's the perfect way of doing it. And then the little bit that I do cut out is perfect to put the two palettes back together because I'm using both sides of it. So I am just smoothing out the edges with my finger and a little bit of water just to smooth away any of the lumps and bumps. It's easier for when I am sanding. And now I am using a large glass marble, and I have got plenty of marbles because I like to make things out of them, to press into the clay just to make some little indents. So this is obviously where I'm going to put my paint when this is all finished. But as I do it, I am smoothing it all out with my finger a little bit so there isn't so much of a big ridge there, and it doesn't pull up, because what happens is if you push down too hard, which I do because I'm still learning as well, you get that little ripple effect. And if you use your finger, maybe a little bit of water, not too much, you can smooth out as you go along. So now I am marking with this tool along the edge where I'm going to scrape out some of the clay. And I'm scraping out some of the clay. It can either be used as somewhere to mix paints together or have little paintbrush stands in. So it's entirely up to you. I do go a little bit too deep and too far with this, and you will see me add some more clay back in. But yes, I'm just looking now thinking, stop. But I don't. But I'm still learning. Like I said, I should have made the clay a little bit thicker. I should have made the little indents, I should have made them further into the clay so I wasn't pushing the edges out too much. And I really shouldn't have gone so deep with this tool, because now you can see me trying to put some clay back in. But hey, I'm learning and this is mine, it's mine. and I'm not giving it to anyone. So if I make mistakes with this, trial and error, I'm still learning. So yeah, knowledge is everything. So now I am just blending all the edges in with this little round tool. I'm really sorry about the noise behind me. If you can hear sawing, my next door neighbours are having a new bathroom fitted, and it's been going on for nearly 2 weeks now. I think they're having new pipes fitted too. So now I'm rolling out some more clay because I need to make some paintbrush holders or pencil holders, whatever you like to call them. And so this is trial and error again. I realised after cutting this out that I cut the point too low and it would just break, and I don't think I rolled it out thick enough either, because I forget it's got to stand up on its own and hold some brushes or a pencil. As you can see, it will all break apart. I squish it up. I try it again and I make the same mistake again, and this is the third attempt, and I still do that V shape too low, because when I go to cut it like this, look, la 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 la, I end up just tearing it and throwing it away. But hey, the fourth and the fifth attempt came out perfect. So after 4.5 days of this drying, it is now ready to sand. So when you're sanding, please make sure you're going every single edge, and make sure that you sand it down to a point where when you're going to place paint on it, there isn't any kind of like ruffled up edges, because you can't always get in there with the paintbrush if you don't notice, that is, you can always use a smaller paintbrush, obviously, but it's so much easier if you sand it down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be quite smooth to the point where there's no real like creases or anything around the edges. Just so you can cover it with paint, really. It's just to protect it and to make it look pretty, you know, to make it look really nice for your designs. So make sure you always wear a mask. PPE for your lungs is definitely important. As I go along, you'll notice that I use a little brush as well. I haven't used paper at the bottom today. I did forget, but I'll use the brush to brush out any of the dust that's accumulated in any of the little pockets and any of the little joins and creases. And then what I do in the end, after sanding, I'll scoop it up onto a bit of paper and I'll put it in my little pot for later so I can make some clay slip with it. So these are the little stands I was telling you about. So they'll hold your paintbrushes up, or a pencil or a pen. You just put them up in place on the side, and that little crease bit in the middle, the little point in the middle, is where you place them. So now I'm giving these the first coat of white paint. I'm going to go over with the crescent moon with white paint on both sides, and I do 2 coats of that. And then when I travel over to the next part of the circle that I cut out, the other shape, the sort of seed shape that I cut out, I use a black and blue together and make a navy blue up, and I paint that exactly the same with 2 coats. With both these, I did actually go around the edges as I was painting. Usually I go around the edges first, and that's what you probably should do because it actually works out easier, but that isn't the case always. And working with these shapes, I found, you know, holding them, I was going to get paint everywhere, so it was easier just to like paint one edge and then paint the top and then paint the second edge. So all the painting today I did with folk art acrylic paints, and they did dry pretty quick, apart from the Pebbo. That dried quick. I'm not saying it didn't, but what I'm saying is Pebbo is a different type of paint. It was an enamel acrylic, so it kind of like takes a little bit longer. I think it dries within about half an hour. It's completely dry, but with acrylic paints, obviously it takes about 24 hours for them to cure properly. If you decide to go over with varnish or anything else, they're tacky underneath, so they can peel away. So the best thing to do is to let them sit for 24 hours before you decide to varnish them. But yeah, so this here, I thought, you know what, because I knew I was going over the Pebbo, and the Pebbo is like pearlescent effect with a slight white to it. But before I go over with that, I thought I'd fill out all the hollow inserts with like a nice grey, because I wasn't sure how Pebbo was going to come out, but I know it kind of like has that nice iridescent pearl effect, and I thought I'd try this out first so I can give it a different kind of tone underneath, and it worked out really well. Can you see what I mean? How different this paint comes out on a white, that's how it comes out, iridescent white, and on the black it turns to like a silver iridescent. It's very, very nice. It's just you have to experiment to understand how it reflects in the light. I did put 2 coats of this paint on, and I left it at that. It still looks a bit wishy-washy, but I really enjoy that because we're going for a moon effect, so it looks really, really nice. I'm now going in with some little star designs. I'm using stars, spots and crescent moons. I go over these with a nice gold, and then I go over with a little bit of white in the centres, and then I also go around some of the edges with black, and then I do write some little slogans and words on the side of these palettes. I'm not going to go to the extreme of going too intricate and making them look absolutely amazing, because this is my first time doing these palettes and I know they're going to get covered in other acrylic paints, some oil paints, some watercolours, and I don't know if it's all going to come off. I mean, I do varnish these well, but it might not all come off, so there's no point in going over the whole palette with some beautiful designs, because I know, you know, that they're going to get covered, absolutely covered with my heavy hands in paint. So I'm using a outdoor varnish with UV protection. I give these, both sides of them, I give them 2 to 3 coats of the varnish. I let them dry for an hour in between coats, and I let them sit for 24 hours then before I put anything else on them. On them as in the little stands for my paintbrushes, because I don't want it to be tacky and then lift them off and they rip up some of the varnish and paint. So you have to let them sit and make sure they're dried for 24 hours after you've done this. But yeah, 2 to 3 coats. So these are the finished results. I absolutely love them. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if you have a go yourself doing any of these. Love you all as always. Thank you so much for watching. Please like. You don't have to subscribe, but give me a like so I know this is the content that you like, and let me know if you do have a go of any of these. Speak to you later. See you soon, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.